questions, doubts, uncertainties. Don't look at it on that way, because these should be used to understand how drastic the changes and how fast we are changing. Yes, I agree that this was there. It was stated that we would take 5 to 10 years based on the regulatory uncertainty and the actions taken by the banks, central banks and regulators. But by the announcement of Libra, everything kind of changed. And along with the current health crisis and the economic crisis, companies are actually coming forward, highlighting the use of blockchain. Central banks are coming out and talking about central bank digital currencies, and institutions are coming out and stating how we can use this new technology. If you are getting value out of the content, please do support the channel, hit the like button and the subscribe button, followed by the bell notification icon to get notified about the future videos. Welcome to the Scientific Investor channel, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. This tweet from Stuart actually made me thinking, what's this? Then I actually scrolled down and understood that it was actually early in 2019. So the perspective in which he's pointing out, I think it should be to understand how fast we changed, because just by the announcement of Libra and the announcement of the Chinese central bank digital currency, along with the current health crisis turning into an economic crisis, that's why we are seeing this kind of changes. Now in this one from LUG, when we actually go into that, we can see a tweet in which David Schwartz kind of agrees with this question here, because the question was asked about the corridor of Euro USD, which is already liquid, and why you guys are targeting it so now. And the reply shows like, we have customers who said speed and availability at all hours during holidays makes it useful to them. Meaning customers are really interested even in those corridors, and they are actually coming in. Keeping an eye on that, looking at institutions like this, and when they actually talk like this in front of the public, meaning this was actually done in a Paris FinTech forum, and you can actually understand in those discussions, the people who will be listening to this will be actually there, like the regulators, the bigger institutions, even Swift will be actually listening to what they are talking and listen what he's actually saying there.
You know, Swift is so slow, and even with all the changes that they're talking about, it's still going to be very, very slow, very, very high cost for anything other than very large transactions. Is the opportunity for us, basically.
So if you guys remember 2 years back, or 2.5 years back, David Schwartz actually did a presentation on a stage in which he was actually talking about, the Swift and new modifications which they are making, is like putting a Ferrari stop on a Ford Model T. And this is kind of being validated by institutions. These are real institutions, and coming out and stating that yes, we are solving real pain points, real problems. And even with those changes, they are not being able to adapt to that situation. And at that time, we kind of see this $9,000 XRP, $7,000 XRP. Wow. Yes, we can call these as glitches or mistakes, anything, but these are all happening in the background, right? And there will be individuals who are actually watching this and scratching their head, wow, I just missed an opportunity, even at least to sell at that price. But still, these glitches are happening. If you remember previously, 1 year or 1.5 years before, the glitches used to happen like $6, $10, $12, and now it's around $7,000, $9,000. You can actually say that, yeah, was someone trying to skip the BTC for XRP, but if you look at the price around 7,000, it wasn't the case. So at least that is still a glitch, right? And at the same time, why I'm connecting that glitch here, because even the central banks are actually talking about regulations and how the fintechs are actually changing. So the investment is actually going, like, if you ask me, I'll say it's actually happening in the background, and some of it may be OTC, which we are not directly able to see in exchanges, which, the whale hunters are not being able to show us, but some of it will be through these exchanges, and the whale alerts actually show us that. Now this is a big file. Say you have around 289 pages. This talks about central bank digital currency and fintech in Asia. Now this was actually highlighted by Peter Vass, and in this site, when you actually go, you have a lot of different articles. Now I actually went through them and I chose this one because it's actually really talking about what we need to know in detail. Now yes, this came last year in 2019 and it talks about a wide variety of topics, but I have actually highlighted some of the information which we actually need to know, or which will increase our knowledge here. So the first thing is here, the challenges for central banks and regulators. Why I'm highlighting this? Because there is a lot of digital assets and many of my viewers actually ask, which should I own? Should I own XRP? Should I own this? Should I own that? I'll actually reply to them like this. The question is, will banks lose a substantial amount of funds to competing platforms? Will they shrink their balance sheets accordingly, with possible negative effects on the economic activity? If the banks lose lending business and deposits as a source of funding, will this cut into their profits, potentially making them less stable? If individuals and firms shift from central bank fiat currencies to using crypto assets for transaction, this will threaten the effectiveness of monetary policy and also reduce central banks' ability to monitor transaction flows. If P2P lending platforms go bust, could this also undermine financial stability? So these are the questions central bankers and regulators asking from their side. So when I look at XRP or XLM, these are assets which actually go support the central bank itself, right? The banks itself. So the questions arise like the other crypto assets like BTC and other. I'll say, even BTC is not actually suitable for transaction if you're looking at it on scale. If you're just looking for one transaction, even if you're okay with that price and 45 minutes to 1 hour of transaction processing time, it's okay. But when you're looking at it on scale for the business purpose, you can actually use those practically. But when the banks and central banks want to do this in a new way using the new technologies, they can actually use these technologies without letting the other guys circumvent the existing law, the monetary policies. So that is the reason why I think regulators are actually coming in and working on this in a perfect sense, saying they'll actually separate the settlements area. Now, in the same article, when we actually go to page number, I think it was 42. Yeah, central bank digital currency proposal and prospects. And this is something which you have to directly connect with what we just read, because they were actually looking at crypto assets or digital assets coming out. Okay, now they can actually eat into their market share. Okay, but they actually look at fintechs and take the help of fintechs and go into central bank digital currency. Now, there are different types of aspects which they are looking at, but you have to actually understand that the creation of money and management was actually done by the central banks. Okay, before jumping into this, you can actually read this part. This actually is a lot long. It talks about the private sector money, digital tokens based on the distributed ledger technology and all. But when you actually come to the end of it, you can actually understand this means that fintech companies are not allowed to engage in money creation using digital coins, but are given greater opportunities to expand their business. Read again, not allowed to engage in money creation using digital coins. So this was the aspect and this was the situation previously, right? But now moving into the central bank digital currency, they're actually talking about the retail central bank digital currency, wholesale central bank digital currency, in which the retail will be directly issued for the general public and the wholesale will be for financial institutions and central banks. But this is a bit old, as we know. This is on 2019, right? And we actually saw and discussed about a recent article in which it actually clearly states about what this retail, what this wholesale and this separation means. Say one was the retail itself, then the synthetic, and then the hybrid. In the previous videos, we actually described that and detailed that well, so I'm not actually going into that. But you can actually understand that now this privately issued or fintech issued money can be used, but the difference here is it's not like they are not directly engaging in the money creation using the coins. Instead, they are using the central bank reserves based on central bank's purpose to issue these coins. So in that aspect, that is what is known as the synthetic central bank digital currency. And the ideas on central bank digital currencies discussed around the world can be divided into different proposals, which is based on DLT or not based on DLT. If we are looking on non-DLT, we can actually see about Sweden, and DLT, we can see the China, Tunisia, Senegal, Uruguay, and all coming up. And the others, which is wholesale, we can see Canada, Singapore, Thailand, South Africa, and we already know that Canadian bankers, central bankers, Singapore bankers, Monetary Authority, all of them are actually working with Ripple, the company. And whenever we are talking about the digital currency, the fintech and all, what we have to understand is whenever we are going into a new article reading about this, you really have to understand most of them are actually highlighting the tie-up between the central banks or the governments or regulators with the fintech and the private arena. Like, it is the key area of interest for Forum, building on our long history of public-private cooperation. We hope that hosting this consortium will catalyze the conversion necessary to inform a robust framework for governance of global digital currencies. And when you actually move through the entire article, what you can see is this statement is coming out from Central Bank of Bahrain, building on our collaboration, blah, 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 blah. And they are looking at the digital currency toolkit. Now, one is that, and the next one is coming from Bank of England. So keep an eye on these. Whenever these guys are talking, you can actually directly see a connection with a Ripple, meaning Bank of England is a partner. And you can see the Monetary Authority of Bahrain or the Central Bank of Bahrain is actually there. So almost everyone who are talking about the private-public partnerships in terms of central bank digital currency and terms of digital currency itself, we can see the tie-up directly towards Ripple. So these are all happening after this. You should actually understand this happened like last year, early January, right? So in that term, now we had changed a lot, because in the meantime, we are getting informations like this, which actually points us towards the change itself. And this is another article from Peter Vass, which we actually have to go through with this one, because we just talked about the central bank digital currencies, how it moved, and in a recent article which we can see here is showing that central bank digital currencies need decentralization, because when they're actually talking about the retail aspect of this, the general public, if they have to actually serve them, they need to be kind of decentralized. And that is the area where the synthetic or the hybrid central bank digital currencies come into play. And we discussed that, right? At the same time, you should also consider this. The digital currency space is actually ramping up as China is moving into this. And we all know what's happening around the world and how each different country is looking at China now. Look at the situation with China and Australia. Look at the situation with China and United States. So this is happening all around the world. Look at the border issues with India and China. So now the world is kind of saying, if it is like made in China, we don't need that. So the aspect is changing. So if they are trying to compete with the world using their new token, automatically the world will be coming up with their own. And in the meantime, as we actually see these kind of direct individuals taking on Swift, stating that that is an opportunity for us and we are going to use it, we are also getting these kind of partnerships. Now, this tweet is actually from JC Crypto, and he's highlighting that BitTrue and XRP modernizing the finance together runs on Ripple. Now, in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, wherever you go, I kind of think that at least 80% of financial institutions will have this tag runs on Ripple. And here the changes, BitTrue leverages XRP to modernize financial services. So they are using XRP, the asset, not only the software from Ripple, but the asset. And whenever you are saying the word settlement, you should directly connect it to the digital asset XRP, because it is actually shaking the entire system. We heard it directly from the Christine Lagarde, 2-3 years back. She actually stated that, and now we can actually see cracks in the system. Now, one partner, MoneyGram, is expanding. If you look at their expansion in last 1 year, it's really huge, and that's kind of worrisome for others as well, like say their competitors. And previously, we actually saw about a discussion between the DTCC chief and talking about how they process the securities, how the movement of value occurs, how the transaction and settlement occurs. And what is important here is they are actually processing huge amount per year, But this is only from one market, which is US. Now the world is changing and the world is actually looking at a digital world. Digitization is here. So in this aspect, you can actually see not only the remittance or the normal payments transactions, you can also see all types of transactions, all type of payments, all type of asset movement, meaning the movement of value being changed, and that change is towards a distributed ledger technology. So if you read here, perhaps digitized asset might flow smoother with DLT. So it is actually clear what is happening, and the target market is not so small, it's so huge. But what you need actually is patience. Many talk like, I'm gonna retire in September, I'm gonna retire in December. Brothers and sisters, do change that attitude. If you are here as an investor, it means you're here for long term. If you're only looking for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, you're a trader, not an investor. So try to educate yourself. You can actually read a lot of books or at least listen to audiobooks, which actually educates yourself in the financial terms. So keep an eye on the entire space, how it is actually moving and the changes on a regular basis. Because once you're properly educated, you're actually empowered. No one can actually deceive you. You know, the hype and other things created by the content creators, if it's not based on facts, you can actually neglect that. You can directly do your own research and empower yourself. If you're getting value out of the content, please do support the channel. Hit the like button and the subscribe button, followed by the bell notification icon to get notified about the future videos.